defective spiritual vision. And we're going to see a number of instances where in these chapters, people don't really see things clearly, spiritually speaking, and Jesus will correct their sight, so to speak. In one case, he literally heals a man who's blind, but generally he's showing people who he is, obviously, and helping them to perceive truth in a way perhaps that is uncomfortable for them or that they're not used to seeing. And so Jesus is curing defective spiritual vision. We'll start then in Mark chapter 8 and verse 1. It says, "In those days, the multitude being very great and having nothing to eat, Jesus called his disciples to him and said to them, I have compassion on the multitude because they have now continued with me 3 days and have nothing to eat. And I sent them away, and if I send them away hungry to their own houses, they will faint on the way, for some of them have come from afar." So this event happens near the Sea of Galilee, and the situation that we just read, the circumstances that we just read, leading up to the feeding of 4,000 men and perhaps others by a miraculous feat of Jesus Christ. I want you to notice that these people had been following Jesus along the wilderness near the Sea of Galilee somewhere, as you see in this picture. They'd been following him for 3 days. And they didn't have anything to eat. He wasn't giving them stuff to eat to this point. They were following him out of a devotion to him, perhaps wanting to see signs, wanting to hear his teaching particularly, and accepting him as the Son of God, perhaps the Messiah to come. These people are devoted to following him. So Jesus has compassion on them. And it's that sparks this miracle that he performs of feeding them in a miraculous way. But I want you to notice that Jesus doesn't give them food first in order to get them to follow him. In fact, you don't find Jesus ever doing that sort of thing. Jesus performed a lot of miracles. He healed people, he fed the multitudes, he raised the dead, did a lot of things, but those things weren't primarily to help people out. The primary purpose of those things was to demonstrate that he could help people out miraculously with his divine power, that he was truly the Son of God. That's the point of these miracles. You know, if Jesus wanted to feed everybody, he could do that with less than the snap of a finger. Just say the word and Jesus could do that. If Jesus wanted to heal everybody in the world, he could do that without any problem. So that's not really what he's trying to accomplish here. Jesus is trying to demonstrate to a lost and dying mankind that he is in fact God's Son. And that's the purpose of miracles. And you sort of see that in this situation where he hasn't been feeding these people, but they're following him anyway. They love him. They want to know more about what he's saying. They want to see what he's doing. So he has compassion on them. And he says, you know, if I send them away hungry, they're going to faint on the way. His disciples answered, how can one satisfy these people with bread here in the wilderness? That's an interesting question coming from his disciples because just a little bit earlier than this, we saw in Mark chapter 6, Jesus had fed 5,000 plus women and children miraculously. So they knew he was capable of feeding a great number of people by performing a miracle. But he just asked them on this occasion, well, how many loaves do you have? And they said, 7. So he commanded the multitude to sit down on the ground, and he took the 7 loaves and gave thanks, broke them and gave them to his disciples to set before them, and they set them before the multitude. So much like the feeding of the 5,000, everybody sits down, they find a little bit of food, 7 loaves, a few fish, it says, and they ate and were filled, and they took up 7 large baskets of leftover fragments. Those who had eaten were about 4,000, and he sent them away. Quite a notable miracle. Jesus again demonstrating not only his compassion for people, his love for them, but also his tremendous power. And as I said, that's the main thing about this, feeding these 4,000 individuals on this occasion.